want to talk about Will's approach to nutrition.
Hmm.
So the reason I bring this one up, and this is partially my fault, I've made you like the fitness guy, right? If we think of the worlds of TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, you talk a lot about like specific movements and proper movement patterns, flexibility, blah, 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 blah. But like, I know you're also very passionate about nutrition, but I don't really ever ask you those questions. And like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like Kat's a dietitian, right?
She's her master's in nutrition, so she's a nutritionist.
Okay. So like you know what you're talking about when it comes to nutrition, or at least, you know, you have your views and your beliefs. So when we think of, you know, the foods you try to eat, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but like
Sure.
what you believe in, what is.
Okay. Gotcha. Step in. Step in.
Thank you.
Enter Will rant. What I believe in. First things I believe in are variety and no dogmas. So variety, you should be eating tons of different types of fruits and vegetables, tons of different types of carbohydrate, different types of fat, different types of protein, all the time. If you're a person who eats chicken breast every day, 5 days a week for 5 years, you're going to get issues. I don't know what those issues are, but you will get issues. So change up what you're eating for gut health, for your gut biome and bacteria, so you don't get intolerant to things, so you don't develop allergies. So so that you're not starting to mute, or your body can start to get bored of the signal it's getting from certain foods. So variety is super important. No dogmas. So don't be vegan, don't be vegetarian, don't be paleo, don't be any certain name, because then you are limiting yourself. With the exception of, I want to do something for a period of time as an experiment to see how it affects me. So to go back to that, don't say I'm going to be vegan for the rest of my life, or paleo for the rest of my life, or whatever, keto, it doesn't matter, because there will come a time, because it happens to everyone who says they want to live that lifestyle, that they do change, because they start to get negative impacts. And kind of like the variety piece, if you only do keto, you're eating one type of way, and you're not being varied enough, and you're going to have issues, and people do. Same thing with everything else. Yeah. The exception I gave is there's huge benefits from doing a labeled diet for a period of time, right? Like I'm super supportive of clients of mine. I have a couple right now who are doing like a paleo diet for a month to kind of like see how it feels and take away like excess sugar and stuff. Super in support. I'm super in support if you want to go vegan for a month or two. Get rid of meats, probably a good thing for a period of time. So I think doing those things for a designated period of time are fine. It's just that when you become something you label and you identify with forever, and then when issues happen, then you kind of got to backpedal because it doesn't work out ever.
Yeah, and I remember you first talked to me about this, well, obviously when I think the first time I asked you about nutrition, because I was asking your thoughts on vegan. You're like, no, you shouldn't be vegan. And I remember I took that as like, oh, like he doesn't like vegans, or he doesn't like people who do paleo or whatever. But that isn't the case at all, because I know you personally, there are days of the week where maybe you don't have meat and you stick to a more like plant-based diet for that day to give yourself some variety. Mm-hmm. So I think I just wanted to step in and make that distinction, because, you know, people who don't know you, or maybe people who have heard you make those comments, that's the real reason why you're not trying to be supportive of just being narrow-minded with one way of eating, because then it's really hard when you do need to make that switch. And to your point, we've had clients here who have eaten a certain way for a really long period of time, and then found out that didn't necessarily work for them, whether they're trying to put on muscle or trying to increase aerobic capacity and being a better runner. Mm-hmm. And they've had to make these changes, and like it was difficult to make that change because they were afraid of the repercussions from like the tribe that they've created by following that specific dogma, I guess you can say.
Yeah. And a way we've talked about in the past, you and I, is I also don't like those definitions of, some are okay, but I don't like definitions like, for example, like keto or vegan, because it doesn't tell me what you actually eat, right? So keto, I'm ketogenic, which implies you eat like a high-fat diet. Okay, so you're telling me you already don't eat carbs, but what kind of fats do you eat? Do you eat avocados every day? Do you just eat nuts every day? Like, what are you eating? And then vegan is even worse, because, again, the same example on a podcast I talked with you a year ago, which is like you can be vegan and just eat bananas, like what are those things called, Sour Patch Kids, and friggin' like like lettuce.
Yeah.
That doesn't make you healthy.
Yeah.
So it tells me what you don't eat, meat. But what do you eat that is creating your health? So I mentioned before Dr. Michael McGregor, who's a vegan. Well, actually, he's not a vegan. He would not like that. How he labels himself is he eats whole foods.
Yeah.
Plant-based whole foods. So that tells you, okay, he eats plants and whole foods. So those types of definitions are better. Let's get back to what I eat.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not anti any food, so like I'll go through waves where I have grains, Greek yogurt. I'll dabble with milk every now and then.
Buckwheat. You're
Buckwheat,
a
love
big buckwheat fan.
But I try and mitigate or have good breaks from things that I find personally to be inflammatory, which would be milk, which would be most breads, lots of sugar. But I'm not afraid to have those things because I think to some degree, if you're creating a healthy gut biome and bacteria, you can handle those things in small doses. But if you do them a lot or all the time, that's when they start to get to issues of whatever. So I pretty much eat everything, but I might not eat a given thing for months or years, but I eat everything.
Are you, do you follow like a specific macronutrient breakdown, or is it more so like just intuitive eating?
I have 95% followed intuitive eating, but I just know because I've worked with people. If I wanted to be super amazing at something, I would need to do more tracking.
Yeah.
So like say, so right now I'm like about like 183 pounds. Say I wanted to be 210 of like rock muscle. I'm going to need to do some serious tracking to get there.
Yeah.
But I don't really care. I don't want to be that. But if I did want to bump up to 195 like I did last year and had a lot more muscle, I don't need tracking to get there. That's personally me. But I also...
you might just need like an extra chicken breast and like an extra scoop or 2 scoops of rice sort of thing. Like you have that.
Yeah. For me, I know enough about food. I know what I just need to intake more of to do that, but I don't need to be tracking. But to not mislead people, some people need to track.
Absolutely.
Right? Some people need to track. Again, if they're trying to reach that certain goal or trying to run marathons, they need to be crunching the carbs. Some people need that. Some people need to learn because they're learning how to lose weight, and they need that kind of frame of reference to help point out to them how much they're overeating.
Yeah.
So some people absolutely need to track. I don't feel like I need to track, and I don't really want to track.
Yeah.
But some people just do it because they like it. That's fine. Do it. It's great. Do it. But to interject, like I'm still always aware of what I'm eating, even though I'm not tracking. So for example, say it's Saturday, and like at lunchtime I feel abysmal. Me and my wife will be like, well, your breakfast was like 600 calories. And I'll just like think about and do the math super quick. Like I can do the tracking in the moment. I know what I ate. Like, oh yeah, no wonder I'm so lethargic and I have a headache. I had like nothing for breakfast. You know what I mean? At 600 is actually quite a big breakfast. But like, say I only had like, little or say I only had like 200 calories. So I'm definitely always aware of the sizes and the portions. It's just I'm not like day-to-day tracking for this outcome.
Do you ever have you ever played around with fasting?
So this is something that Kath and I have talked about a lot of because Kath and my wife, we both have, I don't want to say research because that's not like I've gone through like clinical trials on fasting, but like listen to podcasts of people who do it a lot. So like Dom D'Agostino, right? Peter Attia, people like I listen to a lot of people on podcasts who are doctors or PhDs, or like Lane Norton or something like that. So I've listened to a lot of podcasts on fasting, but I've just never really pulled the trigger myself. I have interest in like 24-hour fasts, but I'm a skeptic of intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
Because you can intermittent fast by going to bed at 9 and not eating till 7 a.m. That's what, a 10-hour window, right? So it's like that is usually what people would be doing late in the day. They don't eat from whatever it is, 7 a.m. until 5. It's like it's the same time. So most people can and are intermittent fasting but aren't aware of it.
Yeah. Okay, and then last question. Juice cleanses. What are your thoughts?
Just the name juice cleanses just sounds dumb. It just sounds so dumb. It's like you can't cleanse things out.
Yeah.
It's pretty silly. That's not to say there's no value in having juices that are like made of good things, but this idea that I'm not gonna like rid myself of toxins and stuff, it's like, I don't know, it's silly.
The only reason I bring it, the reason it was top of mind. So there's this show, man, this is bad. there's a show called Cheer on Netflix. It's about this community college in the States that is very competitive in cheerleading. So Caitlin and I watched season 1, and season 2 just got released, so we watched it.
Yep.
And
Did Chris Stein get you on this?
no, but that's right.
Yeah,
That's right. His girlfriend. But yeah, so there's this one scene where I don't know, they're talking about something, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm doing a watermelon diet right now." And they're like, "Oh, what's a watermelon diet?" And she's like, "Oh, it's just gonna cleanse me. Like I can only eat watermelon for the next, I don't know the time. It was something ridiculous, like 48 or 72 hours." But then like the documentary didn't really talk about this is good or this is bad. But I'm like, how many people are watching this right now and be like, "Oh, these competitive cheerleaders are doing a watermelon cleanse. I should do a watermelon cleanse." And I just look at Caitlin, I'm like, this is what's wrong with the world.
Yeah, although it's interesting because the last two things we talked about kind of do come together, which is like juice cleansing to me is like nonsense, but the purpose of fasting is to cleanse.
For sure.
Which is give your body a break from digestion so that it can get everything out. It can heal in other ways because your body, think about your body like your computer, which is if you have like 20 apps always open and you're always doing different things, or say 20 tabs, whatever in your browser, you got iMovie on and you got YouTube video going or something, the computer's really slow, right? And bogs down. But if you run like 1 or 2 apps, it runs great. Obviously, there's millions of processes always happening with the body. But when you give digestion a break, we see a lot of positive things. I'm not going to talk about what they are because I'm definitely not that smart no much, but listen to people like Dr. Peter Attia or Dom D'Agostino about this. But that's the purpose, is to, in a sense, in a crude way, say cleanse.
Yeah. And I mean, I should clarify. I don't want to say even the elite of the elite, but I think there's some people who, playing around with intermittent fasting for some of the benefits would be beneficial. But I think for 99% of people who are like, I just don't know how to eat properly, I want to lose weight, I want to feel better, and they go into like a cleanse, that's where I have issues, where it's like, okay, well, how about you don't eat fast food 7 days a week and you just make your own food? Let's start with that before you just go and buy 48 watermelons and live off that for the next 72 hours. I think that's what I more so meant.
Yeah. I know you're speaking again to intermittent fasting, but on general fasting, which I think is interesting, is that people look at other peoples who fast a lot, and they see that these peoples just have tons of health benefits and live long and well. It's tricky because they're usually correlated with other things. So one example is like there's a lot of fasting in like Muslim and Christian traditions, but also like Indian traditions. And so when we see these peoples who are doing lots of fasts, these people usually live to longer ages and live well and have less stress. Obviously, they're doing other things as well, so it's hard to say that. But there seems to be benefits supported to fasting. Something else other people talk about, again, more intelligent than me in this area, would be that when the body sometimes goes through extreme stress in terms of food restriction, it helps the body survive long term. And some anecdotal evidence of this is like Holocaust survivors who were for several years extremely impoverished for food. But these people live incredibly long despite this really traumatic time. And then we kind of see the opposite with people who are like always eating and always well fed. Like they don't necessarily do as well longevity-wise or lengthwise because their body is just so kind of complacent and always provided for. Anyways, a lot of that might be a lot of nonsense, so we'll just leave that there and let people make things up for themselves.
Cool, man. Cool. That was good. Now I know more.
Great.
About you and your love for nutrition.
They're very passionate about it.
Yeah, you are. That's good. Okay, cool. Hope you guys have the best day ever. Bye for now.